Good morning.
Good morning.
It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating, yes?
Yes.
We are eager to visit with you about those things that are important to you. Are you discovering this adventure to be one where you can just observe conditions and feel your connection to that which is love? Or even in this carefully refined environment, do you still find it possible to exercise your newly acquired unconditional love? In other words, are you noticing that in every environment, no matter how carefully tended to it is, you still have options about the way you approach it? And are you beginning to realize that there is no environment that has been so taken care of in advance that it does not require your attention? In other words, a constant making peace with where you are. We noticed as we observe you preparing for an adventure like this, that there can be a tendency to want to do such a good job of making your list and checking it off, do such a good job of preparing for the perfect week, that you forget that this is something that you are always doing. In other words, we want you to not worry so much right now about what you are creating in your future, and instead we want you to be enjoying where you are now, whether it is on a magnificent cruise ship or not. When you begin to understand that your work as creator is molding the clay, and molding the clay is observing, having a vibrational response to your observation, being aware of what that vibrational response feels like, your emotions, and then deciding if it's off kilter a little bit to compensate in some way by adding emphasis to appreciating something particular, so that on rough seas or calm seas you are prepared to maintain your balance, and in doing so you begin to have an adventure that does tend to be a little bit rare in your human form, because most people have not yet learned that art of riding their emotions, that art of tending to their own vibration, that art of feeling on purpose because you have the ability to focus. Most people, even after listening to us for a long while, most people try very hard to control conditions because they have noticed all of their life that they have particular responses to different kinds of conditions. And the better the condition is, the better the feeling response is. So let's all work hard to control the conditions, and then we can all have better feeling responsive moments. And we say, that might be a sort of good plan. No, it really isn't in any way, but we can see how you might think that it might be if you could come into agreement about what the conditions should be. But we notice that the world that wants to feel good and believes that its only way of feeling good is by controlling conditions, you're having a very hard time convincing the world that your point of view is the right one. You're having a very hard time getting them first to agree that your point of view is the right one, and then getting them to understand how to apply your point of view, and then dealing with those who refuse to apply your point of view. And so you are in that rare group who are coming to understand that deliberate creating and joyous living and fulfilling one's life purpose and living happily ever after is really about the art of allowing. And the art of allowing isn't about looking around the world and seeing awful things and then just putting up with it in the idea of tolerance. The art of allowing is allowing your connection with Source, no matter what's happening around you, even if it's up close to you. Even if it's happening in your cabin, or even if it's happening on board your ship, or even if it's happening in your neighborhood, or in your family, or in your country, in your government, in your world, things that are happening up close or at a distance around you, most of them have very little to do with what is your personal business. And if you will make a decision that what really is your personal business is tending to your own vibrational nature, that the vibration between who you really are and how you really feel, which is ecstasy and appreciation and love and joy and passion, and how you are feeling in this moment, which could be any range of things, that your work is tending to that vibrational difference. And you just make up your mind that from where you are going to tend to that vibrational distance, and you are no longer going to try to factor in where anybody else is on the vibrational scale, because it just doesn't matter, does it? How somebody else feels, whether they feel it because they meditated, whether they feel it because they observed a condition, whether they feel it because they understand the art of allowing and they've worked themselves into it, whether they feel it because of something that they are remembering or imagining, what they are feeling has nothing to do with what you are feeling. And when you decide to factor everything out of your vibrational equation other than how you feel within your vibrational equation, and then you start giving full attention to your improvement, your noticeable releasing of resistance because of your deliberate focus upon something that feels better, and keyword, your feeling of relief as you let a little more resistance go, and a little more resistance go, and a little more resistance go. In that resistance-free zone, you discover what you have always been looking for, and that is the freedom to be. It is so freeing and so exhilarating to finally discover your ability to be joyful no matter what anybody else is doing. It is so freeing to finally discover that there is nothing that could ever happen to you that could be so devastating that it would suck the life out of you permanently. It is so delicious to understand that it is normal to feel good, and that feeling good is not something that is difficult. It is not something for a rare few. It is something that is natural to you. It is something that you were born to do. It is your legacy. It is your inheritance. It is your right, but it is something that you must tend to, because it all hinges upon your vibration in this moment. So when so many teachers for such a long time have talked about unconditional love, almost no one has understood that what unconditional love is loving anyway, no matter what the conditions are, not because I have the ability to look at a horrible condition and fake love over it, but because I have the ability to focus where I feel love. So that requires the art of selfishness, doesn't it? That requires caring so much about your connection to source that it is primary, and caring in a secondary thing about everything else. And we know you're going to bump up against those who are going to accuse you of being selfish. And you must know, while you may not need to say it to them because they won't understand it, you must know that, yes, I am selfish, you say to them in your mind. I am selfish because I have only the perspective of self. And the perspective of self, it turns out, is this God force that flows through me that I can't get loose of. I am so much source energy. That is so primary to my being, this source energy that flows, that when I allow you or anything to cause me to get contrary to that source energy, I buckle under the pain of it. When I allow myself to think unkindly about myself or unkindly about you, when I allow myself to choose some event up close and personal or out there in the world someplace, and I allow it to give me that horrible feeling of fear or anger, that feeling of despair, I am denying my true sense of self. I am not fulfilling my reason for being. And we want so much for you, friends, to discover firsthand, to remind yourself, to come back into the knowledge of the fact that You are that source energy. You are that liquid love. You are that empowered being. You are that powerful creator. You are all that you consider to be good, and you just cannot think those contrary thoughts about self or others and maintain your connection, and that connection must be maintained. It's what you're always looking for. It's where all the good stuff is. So if somebody accuses you of being selfish, whether you have a discussion with them about it or not, and we again don't really recommend it because most of them are not ready to hear it, you must take that time to remind yourself, yes, indeed I am selfish, because the selfish nature is everything that you would want me to be. In my selfishness I am tuned in, tapped in, turned on. In my selfishness I am delightful. In my selfishness I am loving. In my selfishness I am clear-minded. In my selfishness I am the example, the epitome of health and well-being and abundance. You should wish for me to be so selfish that I maintain my connection with source energy. And in fact, I and everyone else, you want to say to them, was born with an emotional guidance system that lets me know in every moment my relationship to myself. And negative emotion is always, only, ever the same thing. I am disallowing my true relationship with myself. So when someone says to you, I need you to stop being so selfish and trying so hard to please yourself and please me, just say to them lovingly, that's your job, to please you. And I cannot stand on my head in enough different ways to please you. And even if I did, even if I tried, even if I made you my primary point of attention, there will be so many others who you will not be able to convince. And if I stand on my head to please you, I teach you something that I've come here to help you forget. I teach you conditional love. If I behave in the way you need me to behave so that you'll feel better, I'm teaching you not to pay attention to your own guidance. I'm teaching you not to make your own allowances. I'm showing you something that does not work. Nice to know. So, art of allowing what? Art of allowing my connection to who I am. And who am I? I am joyous. I am loving. I am healthy. I am happy. I am radiant. I am prosperous. I am physically well. I am in balance. I am free and know it. I am in joy. I am God force in physical form, here expressing myself just the way I planned on doing. And I am, you say to them, eager to play with you. And you can be any way you need to be. Please please yourself. I don't need you to be a certain way in order for me to feel good. I am no longer making your behavior responsible for the way I feel. Those are the kindest words that you could say to anyone. My joy is an inside job and I got it handled. So you go out there and work on your inside job and get joyful. And when we are equally joyful, law of attraction will bring us together and we will play. Little side note, when we're equally miserable, law of attraction will bring us together so that we can play. When we are offering the vibration that we cannot stop offering, law of attraction will match us up. So if you want to know how you're doing, look around, because what's around you is a vibrational match to that which you are. And if you like it, keep beating that drum. And if there's something you'd like to be changed, beat that drum. But make peace with where you are, because nothing is more important than that you feel good.